Japan is changing the military game with its latest technological advancements. The nation's new, never-before-seen weapons showcase Tokyo's dedication to enhancing its military capabilities and asserting its position in the region. Now, for any other nation, this wouldn't be such massive news, but for Japan, it is. But why? Well, the answer to the question doesn't have to do with the ingenuity and creativity behind these new weapons. After all, Japan has always been a nation of innovation, particularly in technology. The nation has gifted many remarkable achievements to the world so far. No, the oddity of these new weapons has to do with the nature of the weapons themselves. You see, after the devastation of World War II, Japan largely adopted a pacifist stance. This was even enshrined in Article 9 of the Japanese Constitution, which renounced the right to wage war and even prohibited the maintenance of land, sea, and air forces. But World War II is far behind us, and new dangers loom on the horizon. Dangers that have prompted Japan to reinterpret Article 9 in 2015, allowing the nation to exercise the right of collective self-defense. But Japan didn't stop there. Toward the end of 2022, it officially adopted a new national security strategy that focuses on building Japan's counter-strike capabilities used to preempt enemy attacks. This brings us to the 5 new weapons that have the potential to reshape the power balance in East Asia. But what are these weapons, and how can they help Japan make a difference in the region? Those are just some of the questions this video will have to answer. Before tackling them, it's important to answer a few other questions to explain such a drastic change in Japan's defense posture. Number 1. Why did this change even happen? What made Japan shift gears toward a more offensive security strategy? Well, based on the title of this video alone, you can probably guess at least one factor in Japan's decision: China. Japan has repeatedly flagged China, the country's hostile neighbor, as its biggest strategic challenge. But believe it or not, China's actions weren't what triggered Japan's new military policy, well, at least not directly. The primary culprit is actually Russia. And no, this doesn't have to do with the Kuril Islands dispute between Russia and Japan. It has to do with Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Now, you might wonder how a war some 5,000 miles away from Japan could possibly influence the country's military decisions. Well, it's simple really. We'll let a retired Japanese Air Self-Defense Force General, Toshimichi Nagawa, explain it in his own words. The Ukraine war has shown us the necessity of being able to sustain a fight, and that's something Japan has not so far been prepared for. He then added that Japan is quite late in the game, comparing it to being 200 meters behind in a 400-meter sprint. The war in Ukraine has completely shattered Japan's perception of what a potential military conflict in the region might look like. It's now clear that such a conflict would neither be fast, nor clean, nor easy. This newfound realization made it question its faith in its current security environment and military equipment. One thing became abundantly clear: Japan was nowhere near ready to successfully defend its sovereignty with its current military supplies. So the nation had 2 options: 1. Purchase the missing weapons, or 2. Make them. Given Japan's history of technological advancements, it shouldn't be surprising that option 2 looked more appealing. With option number 2, Japan could gather all the right equipment to prevail in a prolonged conflict within the next 5 years. And where there's conflict, there's China. There's a reason why Russia's war on Ukraine sparked so much fear in Japan. The situation hits pretty close to home. How so? The answer is a single word: Taiwan. You see, tensions have long existed between Japan and China in the East China Sea. However, these tensions reached boiling point when Japan declared that it would support the US in defending Taiwan's sovereignty and freedom against China. Japan has since cooperated with Taiwan in numerous fields, including national defense and security, trade, and industrial transformation. As you can imagine, China wasn't too thrilled about this. The country's response: a massive military buildup in the Pacific. China's military isn't just sitting idly by. The People's Liberation Army has also been conducting military drills in the East China Sea, firing off missiles left and right. Interestingly, China has this in common with another country that's prompted Japan to arm itself like never before: North Korea. Besides China's increasing military might, North Korea's rampant nuclear and missile developments are another major cause for concern on Japan's part. Japan's 2023 Defense White Paper underscored just how concerning North Korea has become, labeling it a security threat bigger than ever before. According to the paper, Japan believes that North Korea can attack the country with nuclear weapons fitted to ballistic missiles. It wasn't hard for the paper to reach this conclusion. After all, North Korea keeps firing ballistic missiles into the sea off its east coast, which, coincidentally, is the direction toward Japan. Of course, North Korea labels these firings as test launches, but this does little to allay Japan's concerns. So what's Japan doing about it? Ratcheting up its military budget. In 2023, Japan's Ministry of Defense requested a record-high defense budget for 2024, totaling $52.9 billion. The most notable requests within this budget are as follows: $2.6 billion for a pair of Aegis system-equipped vessels aiming to bolster Japan's ballistic missile defense capabilities, $1.2 billion for the construction of a new class of frigates, $739.3 million for the acquisition of 8 F-35A, a variant of the American Lockheed Martin F-35 Lightning II fighter, $862.3 million for the acquisition of 7 F-35B short takeoff and vertical landing fighters, $83 million for the construction of 8 Mitsubishi F-2 multi-role fighters, $561 million for the purchase of fighting vehicles and tanks, and $215.4 million for the procurement of 28 wheeled armored personnel carriers. Now, with a closer inspection of this list, you might notice two things. One, the largest individual requests have to do with bolstering the capabilities of Japan's Navy, the Japan Maritime Self-Defense Force, JMSDF. Also, the country's naval capabilities are the only ones where Japan is choosing the production route 100% instead of importing the necessary weapons. Given that Japan's biggest dangers, China and North Korea, come primarily from the sea, this strategic decision shouldn't be surprising. Japan has one primary goal: for its naval force to pack a punch. That's why all the 5 new Japanese weapons this video discusses focus on enhancing the country's naval capabilities. All the details for these weapons were disclosed in the defense budget request we've previously discussed. So without further ado, let's dive into the 5 new weapons that will undoubtedly make Japan's adversaries sweat. First up, a combat support multi-purpose unmanned surface vessel, USV. Now that's a lot of words, so let's break down what each one means, starting from the end. As the name suggests, an unmanned surface vessel doesn't require a crew on board. Instead, it can be remotely controlled or operated autonomously, or in the case of this Japanese vessel, both. That's right, this new vehicle could operate autonomously and be controlled remotely from a land-based control facility via satellite communications. The former option is mostly reserved for rough weather, when the remote control system might experience difficulties. The same goes for any malfunctioning of this system. This will be made possible by the use of artificial intelligence and machine learning, which should significantly boost the vessel's decision-making capabilities as well as its overall performance. The multi-purpose part of the vessel's name is also pretty self-explanatory. This vessel will be able to perform various missions. This includes reconnaissance, surveillance, and combat. As far as the last mission goes, this technological marvel is expected to counter enemy ships and submarines. However, a key piece of information is missing here. The actions of this vessel will primarily support Japanese manned vessels, hence the name Combat Support Vessel. As the manned vessel advances, its unmanned support will be able to share operational data and other relevant information with other USVs with the goal of coordinating their activities. It's a pretty smart vessel, isn't it? This smart USV will also be able to replace its payloads depending on the mission. For combat, it might employ sensors to spot enemy ships and missiles, and torpedoes to deal with them. If the situation gets sticky, this vessel can evade enemy threats by submerging itself in the water. That's right, we're talking about a hybrid, a half-surface, half-underwater vessel. As for the physical characteristics, this stealthy USV is expected to be about 100 feet long and displace about 200 tons. It will use electric propulsion and fuel cells to power its operations, making it more enduring and quieter than traditional diesel-powered vessels. There's just one more question left to answer. When will this naval wonder be ready for action? Not anytime soon, just like the remaining 4 weapons. If everything goes according to plan, this vessel should be researched from 2024 to 26 and tested from 27 to 30. As for action, the exact date still remains to be seen. However, given that the Japanese MOD believes this vessel will greatly enhance the survivability of the Japanese naval forces in the future, it's likely that no time will be wasted. Next up, another unmanned weapon, but this time we're discussing Japan's planned unmanned amphibious vehicle, UAV. Interestingly, this vehicle is sort of a package deal. It's being designed to support the Manned Assault Amphibious Vehicle, AAV, whose development is already underway by Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. If you're unfamiliar with Japan's military industry, you might wonder what Mitsubishi, which is best known for its cars and electronics, is doing in the defense sector. Well, actually, Mitsubishi has a long history of involvement in this industry, which some Japanese people don't even know about. In fact, many of the weapons mentioned in this video, as well as those that are yet to be mentioned, are being built by this engineering giant. But back to the AAV. The AAV is a fully tracked vehicle capable of traveling on both land and water and carrying up to 21 troops and 3 crew members. The main purpose of this vehicle is to allow Japanese troops to swiftly deploy from ships to shore during amphibious assault operations. However, there's a catch. You see, landing on enemy-held lands, or in this case, mostly islands, isn't always a smooth ride. The troops can be met with a variety of challenges, with hostile fire arguably being the most dangerous one. Now, traditional AAVs typically respond by increasing their speed to minimize the time spent in the danger zone. However, this isn't enough to guarantee the safety of troops in enemy lands. That's where the new unmanned amphibious vehicle comes into play. The primary goal of this vehicle is to land on enemy-held territory ahead of the AAV and secure it for the ensuing crew. In addition, this vehicle will be able to transport supplies after the initial landing, ensuring that the troops have the necessary resources to establish a secure foothold on enemy territory. Considering how delicate these missions are, it shouldn't be surprising that this unmanned amphibious vehicle will be packed with advanced features. For starters, it can be both controlled remotely and operated autonomously, like the first vessel we discussed. As with the combat support vessel, the autonomous decision-making will be powered by artificial intelligence, while remote control will rely on satellite communications coming from a land-based control facility. Another similar characteristic is that this vehicle will be able to communicate and coordinate with other UAVs as well as other AAVs, thus forming a handy network of amphibious platforms. When it comes to appearance, the UAV will look pretty similar to the AAV in terms of shape and size. It will also rely on the same electronic power assist technology to make its chassis more compact. Why is this important? Well, the islands of Japan are packed with reefs. For the UAV to have any chance of navigating these treacherous waters successfully, it needs to be able to maneuver effectively and avoid getting stuck or damaged on the reefs. That's what this compact chassis and more powerful propulsion are for. With them, the UAV should have no problem reaching the limited points for landing. This skillful vehicle has the same development timeline as the first vehicle on our list, prototyping from 2024 to 26 and then testing from 27 to 30. The third weapon on our list is technically not a new weapon. It's a variant of an existing state-of-the-art weapon that the JMSDF has been deploying since 2012. So let's talk about the OG weapon first. The advanced weapon in question is the Type 12 torpedo, whose goal is to counter enemy submarine threats. The Type 12 torpedo is a highly versatile weapon that can be launched from various platforms, including helicopters, maritime patrol aircraft, and surface vessels like destroyers. With a 30-mile range and 50-knot speed, the Type 12 is one of the most advanced torpedoes in the world. So why change it? Well, the plan isn't to change it, it's to upgrade it. The JMSDF plans to convert the Type 12 torpedo into an anti-torpedo torpedo, ATT, by adding the ability to neutralize high-speed torpedoes launched from enemy vessels. This addition was born out of necessity. Previously, the JMSDF was only equipped with the soft kill capabilities. These capabilities allow neutralizing torpedoes through acoustic jammers and decoys. Basically, these devices would create false targets and generate noise to divert or entirely mislead enemy torpedoes. However, the soft kill means soon became obsolete. But how so? Well, Japan is dealing with some pretty advanced naval powers in the East China Sea. So it's no wonder these powers quickly developed new, high-performance torpedoes that can evade or resist the traditional counter-torpedo measures the JMSDF uses. They do so by relying on sophisticated sensors to filter out the distractions and continue pursuing their real targets. Since soft kill measures were no longer enough, the JMSDF has only one option: develop hard kill capabilities. And that's precisely what the new and upgraded version of the Type 12 torpedo represents. This anti-torpedo weapon won't just divert enemy torpedoes, it will physically destroy them. However, to do that successfully, the ATT must detect the enemy torpedo early on. That's why the JMSDF is also working on upgrading the sonar capabilities on destroyers that will be equipped with these new ATTs. This involves making the sonar more sensitive, improving its resolution, and boosting its range and coverage. As soon as the improved sonar detects an incoming threat, it will transmit the information to the ATT's launch tubes, resulting in an immediate launch. The result? Bye-bye enemy torpedo. ATTs are expected to enter into service a little earlier than the first two weapons mentioned, as their testing should conclude in 2029. However, should is the key word here, as the ATTs must pass a number of tests involving different scenarios and conditions to prove their effectiveness. This involves testing them against different torpedo types and numbers, launching them at various depths and distances, and introducing unexpected environmental factors. If the ATT passes all these tests with flying colors, one thing's for sure, the JMSDF will have a mighty new weapon in its arsenal that will significantly enhance its maritime security capabilities. The same goes for the next weapon on our list, but this time we're dealing with another type of weapon and another type of enemy. The weapon in question is a detection system called the Glide Phase Interceptor (GPI), and the enemy it's supposed to take out is any hypersonic weapon. The potential deployment of this missile would be huge news for Japan, but why? Because the country has long struggled to find a way to respond to hypersonic weapons that have changed the war game. In Japan's case, this particularly applies to weapons targeting naval vessels like the Hypersonic Glide Vehicle (HGV) and Anti-Ship Ballistic Missile (ASBM). Coincidentally, these are the missiles that are increasingly tested by Japan's adversaries close to its shores, and these missiles spell nothing but bad news. They can fly at speeds exceeding Mach 5, which is 5 times the speed of sound. They can also change course at random, making it nearly impossible to intercept them. But even if they continue toward their intended target, they can do so at incredibly high speeds even while maneuvering, allowing them to evade detection and missile defenses. Certainly not a weapon you want heading your way. So how does Japan plan to deal with these impossibly fast and maneuverable hypersonic weapons? The answer to this question does involve the Glide Phase Interceptor, developed in cooperation with the US. However, it also involves a native system that consists of 2 primary components. Number 1, a multi-band radar. Japan is developing a new type of radar whose primary goal is to detect small, high-speed, and highly maneuverable targets with unparalleled precision. It's called multiband because it will use 2 bands of different frequencies to improve detection accuracy and reliability. The first, the S-band, will detect distant targets. The second, the X-band, will deal with those relatively close. This versatility also carries to the radar's design. Namely, this radar will be scalable, allowing it to be deployed on various platforms. Besides being more accurate, reliable, and flexible, this radar will also be more powerful. This will be made possible by gallium nitride technology, which is known for its high electron mobility and stability at high frequencies, making it ideal for use in radar systems. This technology will allow the radar to transmit and receive signals more efficiently, enhancing its overall performance. The performance in question will be tested from 2029 to 30, after the period of 5 years needed to develop this mighty device. The second component that should help Japan in its relentless battle against hypersonic weapons is a new Combat Management System, CMS. This system is designed specifically for destroyers, and it should allow seamless control and coordination of various sensors and weapons aboard the vessel. When it comes to the design of this new CMS, Japan has 2 goals. 1. Make it scalable. This will allow Japan's military to integrate new equipment in the future as new technological advancements and new threats emerge. This goal is achieved through using an open architecture that allows for easy integration of new technologies in the future. And 2. Make it as autonomous as possible. Through the use of AI and machine learning, Japan hopes to enable this system to make accurate decisions without relying on people, or at least relying on as few people as possible. Now, this goal has a pretty gloomy background. You see, Japan's population is rapidly shrinking. Though the country currently boasts about 125 million people, this number is expected to fall to 63 million by 2100. Though the Japanese government is doing everything in its power to prevent this, the country's military must be prepared for this unfortunate scenario. The preparation, of course, includes developing technologies that require fewer people to operate efficiently, as our list has made abundantly clear. Like most of the other weapons on this list, the CMS is also expected to complete the testing phase around 2030, after being prototyped between 2024 and 28. That means that in roughly 6 years, Japan could have a way to protect its territory and interests against the growing threat of hypersonic weapons. This is especially important for the country, as China is widely believed to have the most advanced technology in this sector. However, the 4th weapon on our list will only allow Japan to detect supersonic weapons and coordinate defense. But what about actually destroying these weapons? That's the job for the 5th and final weapon on our list, a ship-to-air missile. Now, it's important to make a distinction. Ship-to-air missiles already exist, and they're referred to as SAM missiles. Japan will simply develop its own version of this missile, which is referred to as NSAM, an acronym for the new ship-to-air missile. The NSAM won't just be a new version of the SAM missile, it will also be an improved one. These improvements will affect 3 components. Number 1, the seeker. The seeker is the device that detects and tracks the target, thus guiding the missile toward it. Thanks to a combination of infrared and radar sensors, the improved Seeker will be able to better detect and track supersonic weapons, even if they're flying at high altitudes, at high speeds, or on irregular trajectories. Whatever the case, the NSAM will be able to adjust its course accordingly. Number 2. Side thrusters. The NSAM will contain side thrusters whose job is to improve its maneuverability at high altitudes where it has less control. These components are basically small rockets attached to the sides of the missile, making it more agile and responsive. And number 3, the Fire Control System, FCS. Now, to be fair, this component isn't directly attached to the NSAM. However, it still plays a crucial role in guiding this missile to its target, in this case, the hypersonic enemy. The FCS is essentially a software program that calculates the trajectory, speed, and direction of the NSAM in real time, ensuring it stays on course to intercept its target accurately. So how will this component be upgraded? It will become more accurate and more capable of handling complex scenarios involving a wide variety of threats. Interestingly, this will only be made possible by the development of the fourth weapon on our list. The data received from the radar and the CMS will allow the NSAM's FCS to make more precise targeting decisions in real time. The advanced NSAM is expected a little later than the other weapons on our list. There are 2 reasons for this. Firstly, it depends on the fourth system on the list, which needs to be fully operational before the NSAM can be deployed. And secondly, it's planned to be installed on the new types of destroyers that won't be built before 2031. However, if the NSAM offers Japan some peace of mind when it comes to hypersonic weapons, it's absolutely worth the wait. And there you have it, the 5 new weapons that promise to revolutionize Japan's maritime defense capabilities. Interestingly, most Japanese people oppose increased military spending on these and other weapons and systems, though to be fair, the percentage of those supporting this spending was significantly lower just 6 years ago. In 2018, about 29% of Japanese people supported increased military spending. In 2023, this figure rose to 40%. Though these people are still in the minority, it's clear that there's a shifting attitude toward military spending, reflecting changing perceptions of Japan's defense needs. But what do you think? Do you think Japan's increased military spending is warranted? Is a war in East Asia truly on the horizon? If so, which of these new Japanese weapons has the best chance of making a difference? Share your thoughts and theories in the comments section below. Now go and check out why Japan's military power terrifies China, or click this other video instead.